What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a great day. It's a big slate, lots to go on, lots of huge tournaments. Unfortunately for me, my internet has been cutting in and out all day, so I'm not playing as much tonight as I'd like to. But we're going to go through all of what I'm doing. You guys are going to tell me what you're doing, pop in some questions. We'll be out of here by probably 6:20-ish. I am curious about the weather as we've got 3 games with some serious concerns and are all games that I have some interest in on some level, whether it's pitching or hitting. So let's get right to it. I'm going to be the pitchers I'm going to be overweight on versus underweight on. Okay, so for let's just start at the top, I guess, or the most popular. Ohtani, I'll probably be near the field. I'll be ahead of the field on Bieber, ahead on Wheeler, ahead on Cole, basically playing nobody else without some Carrasco. I don't mind Marcus Stroman would be the one other guy I would be looking at on DK. On FanDuel, it's mostly going to be paying up at the top. And for me, that's primarily going to be Bieber as my favorite, Wheeler as my second favorite. I think Garrett Cole does get under-owned tonight, and I think taking a chance on him to go back in this matchup is not a bad idea, as much as he struggled against the same team just 5 days ago. So that's my main pitching pool. I'm going to be filtering in pieces. I only have a couple full St. Louis stacks, but I will be playing pieces of them all over the place. So just wanted to throw that out there, because I do think that getting exposure to them is kind of hard not to, but there are so many good stacks. I like Toronto a lot. I like Atlanta a lot. I like St. Louis, and I like the Dodgers as my main stacks. Those are sort of the main teams I'm looking at. I would like to play the Mets as well. That would be the next team for me. And I think they're going to be, look, I could say under-owned, but everybody's going to have very little ownership today just because of the way the slate is. Obviously, the most of it will go to St. Louis, but I think getting exposure to these other spots make a lot of sense as well. I don't even think St. Louis, you could still stack that and be profitable easily on a slate like this. The Mets game, I need to know the weather because, like I said, I have some interest in Carrasco, and I have a lot of interest in the Mets as well. So that's going to be a big one. Mike Minor just hasn't been the same. I actually think if you're playing a ton of tournaments, throwing one Mike Contreras in my Atlanta stacks, and Knizner is in my Knizner is in my St. Louis stacks. Obviously, it just makes sense. He's a big value save there. I have a lot of Freddie Freeman, Vlad Guerrero, Matt Olson, Paul Goldschmidt are my main first baseman. Second base, Gorman, Biggio, Espinal, Arcia in some of my Brave stacks as a cheap option is mostly what I'm doing at second base. Third base, Muncy, Turner, Chapman, Baum, and I am going to play a couple of cheap La Stella bats, and I think that there's a chance that San Francisco can get to Musgrove tonight. I'm not going to play a stack of San Francisco, but I'm going to definitely keep their bats in my pool. Shortstop, Bichette, DeYoung, Turner make up most of it, with Swanson in my Brave stacks. Outfield, I'm going a lot cheap in the outfield. Ozuna, Robbie Grossman, Ortega, Lars Nootbaar, tons of Acuna is my number one overall play in the outfield. And I think Mitch Haniger as a one-off could hit a home run again and do it for us against Garrett Cole here tonight. So I don't mind taking that bat against him, if you get the bag Cole. Pricing is a little different on FanDuel. Everybody on St. Louis is priced up a little bit more, still affordable. Darren Ruff, super cheap. Mark Canha, super cheap, as I mentioned. Max Muncy, still super cheap. Those are sort of my favorite other guys. But as I said, Bieber and Wheeler are most likely going to be my pitchers over there. So that's where I'm at. Hopefully this stream is working. If you want to lock in Cobb today, Eric Johnson, you're playing terribly. I don't care if it works or not, but why would you lock in a guy when you could just get some exposure to him? If you're playing multiple lineups, I think locking in a guy like Cobb is just absolutely a horrific play. on this kind of a slate. You have pitchers who are going to put up 35s tonight, probably. It'd be very hard for none of these guys to get there. So I would say that would be a terrible play, especially with the value we have out there. But to use him as one of 10 pitchers you're using, I have no problem with that. Glad it's working good. I like the Dodgers. Yes, I'm on the Dodgers, Eric, as well. And let's see what else we got here. End of the internet. Is it not working? It's working for me now. It seems like it's working. Weathers, MJC says he thinks it's okay. I'm going to wait for Roth's report. Again, we have a lot of things that we offer at TrueDFS. Weather is not one of them. So I do default to Roth, who I trust very much from working with him, and he's a good guy and a good weatherman. So that's it. 5-man stacking still optimal. Yeah, I think 5-man stacking is the most optimal way to play these usually, especially if you're playing multiple lines, which I'm guessing most of you are. But I don't think you absolutely have to do it. I have plenty of 4-3-1s, 4-4s, 4-2-1, 4-2-2s. I mean, and even some 4-2-1-1-1, 4-2-1-1s. Excuse me. Let's see. What else have we got here? Oh, it's good now. Okay, I'm glad it's good. Sorry it wasn't working. So I'll keep going through. Pop in questions. I did say everything that I'm doing on this slate, but I don't know that how much of it you guys were able to hear or which part it cut out at. So I think, as I mentioned before, it's obviously St. Louis is the team we want the most to target. Like I said, I like the Dodgers a lot. I like Toronto a lot, even though I don't think Bradish is a bad pitcher necessarily. I think Toronto is going to have an explosion game coming really soon. I like the Mets and I like the Braves as my favorite stacks. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. No Chris Taylor, and we do have Joey Gallo in the lineup for what it's worth tonight for the Dodgers. We see this happen all the time. Every time the Dodgers seem to sign somebody, like Pujols last year, it seems like they always hit home runs early in their starts with the Dodgers. So maybe you get a little Joey Gallo in those Dodger stacks. Bieber's my number one pitcher on DraftKings. Bieber, my mix is Bieber. Again, if the game's good, I like Bieber, Manoah, Ohtani, Wheeler, then Cole. And those are pretty much all of the guys I'm using, except for a little bit of Carrasco, where I'm spending down a little bit of pitcher. Pitt is a 3-man secondary stack. I think you could do a lot better. Kind of weird on a giant slate with so many good offenses to take a bad offense in a good matchup, but it's not like great, and it's terrible hitting. Arizona's a terrible hitter's park when the roof is closed. So I don't have any Pittsburgh myself. If you want to use the cheapo Chavis, if you want to play Chavis, a 3-man, I think a 3-man is totally fine. I wouldn't full 5-man stack them, but I think they're totally fine. It's not what I would target doing, but if I ended up needing that value for Chavis, and then you play it with Reynolds and maybe Brian Hayes or something, I think that's totally reasonable. So I have no problem with that. But certainly wouldn't aim to try and stack Pittsburgh today. The wind in Chicago is slight. It is blowing in a little bit from left center. It's gotten a little bit more. It's kind of gusting between 5 and 10 miles an hour, which is not as much as the 16 we saw last night, where I wasn't going to play any righties, and we still had a couple righty home runs. I think they were opposite field though. So I'm actually going to play some Ortega and Franmil Reyes as value options in that game. I'm not going to stack the Cubs fully, but I also think you got a good argument for Stroman if you really want to spend down. I think he's the guy I would spend down on most likely. He's much more consistent than Cobb is. He has a much better matchup than Cobb does. He's even got the wind in his favor, which Cobb doesn't. So I'm okay if you want to use Cobb in your mix, but I would prefer Grossman. I would prefer not Grossman, Stroman, and Cobb. Cobb would be in my mix if I was playing, like, let's say I had 10 in the 111. I only played 4 because I got in late and I could barely get those in. But I think Cobb would probably make one of them. So I would, if I was playing a ton of lineups, I guess I'd be about 10% on Cobb, and I would probably be about 15% on Stroman, to give you an idea of how close I think they are. Joe Ryan is one of the best young pitchers in baseball. So just throw that out there before we just act like Joe Ryan is trash. Let's not be stupid and do what other sites do and say absolutely ridiculous things about how guys suck and all that. Joe Ryan is one of the most talented pitchers in baseball, young pitchers in baseball. He's going to be extremely high. And it's not, why is no one on them? There's 15 games to choose from. To pick a game at Dodger Stadium when there's hot summer games, when there's a Coors game, it's just hard for people to get there. But I'm on the side with taking the Dodgers. I actually think if I wasn't, especially with the lineup the Dodgers just released, I think I would play some Joe Ryan. He'd probably be like a 3%er for me if I was playing 150, because I think that it's just a wide range of outcomes. He's going to get rocked a lot of the time, and he's going to he's going to have some monster outings. And he's just super, super talented. They've never seen him before. If they do work the counts like they can and all that stuff, it's going to be tough for him. The team I didn't mention that I like quite a bit is the Phillies. And you have another guy who's got, some talent in that arm for Braxton Garrett for sure. But this seems like a really like a tough matchup for him. I mean, if you look at his game log, you'd be like, why aren't we playing some Braxton Garrett tonight? But then against this Phillies lineup, who's patient, who's going to make him throw pitches, I just feel like he could get rocked. So I like that position as well. Cole Irvin what did Cole Irvin end up with last night? I don't even think he was one of the better pitchers. Is that even, can we get a check on that? Because I looked at the thing and I was aware that I was going to get the Cole Irvin thing because they are playing against the Angels. Caprillian's fine. Like if you want no upside, you can play these guys. Like that is something you can do. But like Cole Irvin wasn't as good as Zach Gallen was last night. Zach Gallen, I don't know what Cole Irvin put up last night. Tell me what Cole Irvin put up, because Gallen was clearly a better play than Irvin, as far as I could tell. I don't even know where Cole Irvin ended up pitching wise. I know he's not on any winning lineups, but what did he have? He had 25, so he had a really good game. Basically had to be perfect, no walks, and he had no Ohtani in the lineup as well. So yeah, I have no interest in Caprillion. If you're going to play these guys, I want some upside at least. And what is Caprillian's price right now? He is too cheap. You know what? I take that back. At 5,600, I thought he was 6,500. Even still, I probably should have included him. I think that absolutely is in play, Caprillion. I take it back, Eric. Caprillion is completely in play. I have no problem if you want to take that chance. I think that's completely reasonable at 56. That's just way too cheap against this Angels team for anybody. So I'm with you on that side. I'm completely with you on throwing in Caprillion as maybe a value guy. I just don't know if you really need it. And like I said, I think you're going to want to treat those pitchers, pitching as a premium tonight. Like you got to pay. You're going to have guys putting up 30 pluses. So it's going to be hard. You're going to have to make up a lot for it with the bats. And I'm just not sure you need to save all that much, especially on DK, because you've got so many value bats you can use. Urquidy is meh. There's 9 pitchers that I like better probably than her. That's not true. There's not 9. So in that range, Urquidy belongs right there with Cobb and Stroman, maybe just below Cobb for me. Actually, yeah, you could argue it is kind of weird to see Urquidy. I don't know why they priced him down so much. I was looking at his FanDuel price at 8,700, and yeah, I don't know. I think Urquidy Urquidy at 71. If you want to do a different build and play Urquidy, Stroman, Cobb kind of things, I think that's totally fine. I'm just going to warn everybody that I want pitchers who can get me 30s here, and Urquidy can. And all of those guys can on a ceiling game. But a couple of Wheeler, Ohtani, Cole, Bieber, Musgrove, Manoah are going to probably get there, and even Carlos Carrasco. So it's just how much do the savings mean to you? Okay. Let's see what else we got. How about Wheeler? Wheeler I love. Wheeler is right there. It's like a T2 for my favorite pitcher on DK between Wheeler, Ohtani, and Cole. I think Cole is going to end up the lowest owned, which is the reason I'm going to take a little bit of a chance on him. And it's kind of weird. Maybe he won't because the projections like him the best, but it is kind of funny because they just did light him up against this team, and people tend to have a short memory in DFS. So I don't think Garrett Cole's broken. He definitely seems to be the most likely to maybe blow up, but of the top guys. But all these guys can have a bad game. I do like Wheeler and Bieber as my favorite too, probably if you had to make me choose. And then I think Ohtani and Cole are right there behind him, and then I'll get a little Carrasco in the mix as well. Cole does have he has the toughest matchup, but I wouldn't describe. He also has the longest leash, the most average pitches. But yeah, he does have the toughest matchup of those guys. But again, we can't be totally short-sighted. He had a bad inning and then put up 22 in 5 innings against that team. Whereas if you take out the first inning, I know it's not easy to do. If you take out the first inning, he probably was on his way to 35 last time against Seattle. He was completely dominant after the first inning. I think they got 1 hit off of him. They just rocked him in the first inning, and he might have been on pace for like a legendary game if you could eliminate that. No, it's hard to do, and I know he hasn't been as good lately, but I do think Garrett Cole at lower ownership than the other guys, which I think will happen, is something that I would definitely want to get some exposure to. So that's why my argument for Cole is. But again, I do have him behind the other guys. I currently have less of him than I do the other top guys, but not much. It's pretty close. All right, what else have we got? No, I would not rule out no, absolutely not. That makes perfect sense to me, Eric. 5-man Philly, 3-man Dodgers, I think is very viable tonight. I like the 5-man. I like both sides of that. I'm going to probably end up with just even if they're one-offs. Like I have one-offs of DeYoung, Nootbaar, because they're just so cheap. And then my favorite one-off is probably Robbie Grossman. Just because maybe it's because I like the Braves so much tonight. And it's weird because I'm not a guy who generally picks on Rich Hill, but I do like them a little bit. I'm starting to come a little bit off of them as I noticed the weather was blowing in a little bit from left. It's still such a short porch in left that it doesn't bother me enough to get all the way off of them. But maybe the Braves are better suited for a 3 or 4-man. If that's all right. We got questions in the Discord going. It's not asking about if there's having no St. Louis is bad. I would say if you're playing more than 10 lineups and you don't have any St. Louis, I say you are. I'd say that is bad. I don't think it's awful, but I would say that it's just you don't need when a team's not projecting to be that high owned. Just because they're in Coors and you're like, oh, I don't want to play guys in Coors. It doesn't mean anything. It's about how much they're owned. It's not about how much all that stuff. If you're playing one lineup, absolutely you have no reason to play that. You can play whatever you want in one lineup, but I would not be ruling them out with 10 or more lineups personally. You keep saying the chalk thing. I don't know what you're talking about because what are we talking about for chalk really? You know what I mean? And what tournaments are you talking about? Because you can't just say no chalk as if there's guys who are going to be 30% owned. There's no hitters that are going to be like that tonight. Not one. I don't think there'll be one even now particularly close to that. What's the highest owned projected that Sheets has? There is a 20%er for Arenado and Acuna and Gorman. I personally, none of them are high enough owned to where I care that much. And again, nobody's playing Dodgers like I am. I'm going to probably turn my Brave stack into a mini stack, and I am going to play a lot of Toronto to get different. So that's where it is. If you're playing just one lineup in the 250, I would absolutely not be trying to fade chalk in a 250 in the 250. But if you want to, if you like other stacks enough, you totally can. It's just I'm not going to go out of my way to say, okay, not these teams because they're popular. If this was a 6-game slate, of course we would be doing that because these guys would be 40-50% owned. On a 15 gamer with a 14 gamer with really good options everywhere, you don't need to do 4 lineups in that. I definitely would have some exposure to the Cardinals, but I don't think you need to make them a priority. Absolutely not if you don't want to. Arizona is fine. Varsho, Walker, I think they're fine. Again, I don't like on 14-game slates playing guys in pitchers' parks, and that's I guess my biggest issue with it. But I'm never going to tell you you're wrong to pick on Zach Thompson, and at the same time, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong for picking on Tommy Henry on the other side. There's just a lot of good options. I'm going to play 5 different stacks is the most I'm playing tonight, and even those they're going to be comboed in 3-mans, and if they're not the full 5-man in some of them, I don't think it's right theoretically to I don't know to play. Maybe I'm getting too much on the chalk stuff, but yeah, you surely don't need to target the Cardinals, but I think having some exposure to them, especially if you're playing multiple lineups, is probably the best route to go. And the one thing people love to say, oh, play stack or fade Coors. That's the dumbest thing ever. It's literally one of the dumbest things people say in DFS. They say a lot of dumb things. But play stack or fade the game. Only if there's weather concerns should that ever be the question. Play the Dodgers. Eric. You have my permission. I am playing the Dodgers. I would if I had my 4 biggest lineups. My second build was the Dodgers. Yeah. So I'm with you. If you want to do it, go do it. It was pretty much never a wrong time to play a great team against a pitcher that can be erratic. And the Dodgers are I think pretty significantly the best team in baseball. Not necessarily the best hitting lineup in baseball, but probably right there. And if you put them if they were playing all their games somewhere else, it would be even better. But for what it's worth, it's 78 degrees, the wind blowing out to center at 9 miles an hour in LA. That is really good stuff for the Dodgers. That is unusual that we get that good at hitting weather. Until this time of year. So finally, we've got good hitting weather for the Dodgers. If Joe Ryan gets a little bit wild early, he could get himself into some serious trouble. So I like that. I like the Dodgers stack, and I'm actually playing Bellinger down at the bottom because I think his swing is. I think he's made some adjustments to his swing since the All-Star break, and I think it looks a lot better. And for what it's worth, as bad as he's been this year, one extra base hit per 9 at bats versus righties all season. I think that Bellinger at the bottom of the lineup, if you wanted to get different, but you don't need to go that different. I just prefer Bellinger to Gallo and Justin Turner, who are above him in the order. Gavin Lux is a little more expensive, so I would say I like. That's why I like Bellinger as my 5th favorite Dodger, even though he's batting 9th. All right, so Cobb is fine. I'm not playing enough lineups to get to him, but I think it's totally fine. So is Urquidy, so is Stroman. All those guys are fine. I just don't need the value, so I'm going to pay up a pitcher. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. Eric, thanks a lot, man. You always make it a good time. I wish you a lot of luck. I hope you win the 250 because I didn't get in time to get it. My internet just got in, so I wasn't able to get it in time. Good luck to everyone else out there. We'll be in Discord all